Good day, everybody. On the way to the park. So now this video has got some listener viewer discretion advised. Kenzie, don't get too upset about this because this story is just appalling. You may or may not have been aware of this, but this town council in Australia decided that they were going to euthanize or execute, depending on how you look at it, 15 dogs that were at a shelter. Because their reasoning is they didn't want volunteers to come and pick up the dogs and rehome them because they didn't want to spread COVID. Yeah, so they just executed 15 dogs, just killed them, shot them, by the way. Didn't, put them to sleep using normally what happens in a dog shelter when they can't be homed. They shot them. Like they're out on the farm or like they're rabid or something. 15 dogs, 10 of which were puppies. There were puppies that were born in the shelter. I am flabbergasted by this. This is absolutely insane. They defend their decision to do it. They said, well, yeah, we did it. We had good reason, because there's a total of 800 cases of COVID in Australia. A country of what? 30 some odd million? 40 million? Maybe more? I don't know. I think their population is around the same as Canada, maybe a little bit more. I don't know. 800 cases, roughly. That's not even hospitalizations, that's cases. And yet they have this ridiculous lockdown measure in place in Australia where people are barred from leaving their homes. I mean, I don't know why they don't just weld the fucking doors shut like the Chinese did. People will be arrested if they leave their homes for fresh air. They leave their homes to get sunlight. Sunlight, that disinfecting agent that helps kill viruses. Vitamin D, that necessary nutrient that we all need to fight viruses. Yeah, you can't get that in Australia right now because of COVID. Because of COVID, where there are 800 cases. Now, of course, this has sparked protests. This new lockdown measure. And I don't know if you've seen the footage or not. It's tough to find on YouTube because, it violates their policies. But there's this Australian dude that's part of this protest, and the police come up and run their car into him. Not he stands in front of their car and they inch towards him and touch him, like these, BLM protesters claim they're being attacked when somebody inches their car forwards and it touches one of the protesters. No. These cops full-on ram this guy, send him ass over tea kettle onto the ground. And then another clip shows these same cops and like 3 of their buddies surrounding this guy and beating the ever-living shit out of him, kicking him in the head while he's down on the ground. Yeah, but these COVID measures are necessary to keep people safe. We don't want people to be harmed. Oh wait, except if they're getting a kick in the head by the police. And I mean, this is Australia, fine, okay, it's not Canada. But do you think we're too far away from that? Do you think? I think we're not far away from it at all, especially when you consider what happened in Quebec. The kind of ridiculous measures that were put in place in Quebec, leading to people dying in the streets because they couldn't get help from homeless shelters. A guy died in a frickin' porta potty because the homeless shelter was closed because of curfews in Quebec. He had nowhere to go. And so he tried to stay warm by going into a porta potty on a construction site. And he died of exposure. These ridiculous measures, these idiotic measures they put in place for a virus which, let's not forget, kills roughly 1% of people who are infected with it. 1% of everyone who's infected with it. And most of those people who are getting infected and dying from this virus, they're dying because they have comorbidities. What is it? Something like 75 or 80% of them are obese. Most of them have heart disease. Most of them are elderly and already have weakened immune systems. So by all means, take care of the people who are at risk. Absolutely. Put measures in place to protect people at risk. But young and healthy people who know better, people who know how to wash their hands, know how to, cough into their elbow, let them live their fucking lives. Don't kill their fucking pets. It's absolutely insane, and it's absolutely infuriating. And we're headed that way. I can absolutely foresee us heading that way. Whether Trudeau wins on September 20th or O'Toole wins on September 20th, it doesn't matter. We're going down that route because Aaron O'Toole is just as much as a big government cocksucker as Trudeau. He's just as much into these lockdowns. He's into mask mandates and vaccine passports. He ended up firing somebody because they raised opposition to the idea of vaccine passports or mandatory vaccinations. Because this person was part of his party, and they said, I don't really agree with the whole vaccine mandate thing. He got fired. He got removed. So if you think Aaron O'Toole is going to be any different than Justin Trudeau, think again. He just has less hair, more gut, and he's got a military background. But he's just as much a big government politician who thinks it's the role of government to take care of everybody. I don't want my politicians taking care of me. I want them to take care of my rights. I don't want them to protect my rights. I don't want them to treat me like I'm a fucking kid who doesn't know better. Anyway, almost at the park. I'm sorry you had to hear that awful news, Kenzie. I'm glad you don't speak human. Because if you heard that puppies were just killed en masse, so that people who already were following, by the way, safety measures at the shelter, they already had, mask wearing policies, social distancing policies, hand washing policies already in place at this shelter. They already had it in place. They already had, restrictions in place to protect people from this deadly virus. But the town council said, nah, just shoot these puppies in the head. Absolutely insane. Now here's the thing. I was watching the Lotus Eaters podcast the other day, and Carl Benjamin had a woman on from Australia, and she made a good point. Australia, where you think it was formed as a prison colony of the Commonwealth nations. So everyone's descended from a criminal. Well, everyone's also descended from a jailer, she said. It makes a good point. It's why they are more prone, I guess, to having authoritarian assholes working in policing, working in town councils, working in politics. Because they're all descended from either convicts or jailers. Now, they did raise a point that there are some people in Australia who, are generation after generation Aboriginal and have never been exposed to viruses. So their immune system is already sort of behind the curve, so to speak, in terms of dealing with viruses. So the idea is they want to protect these Aborigines who live, way out in the middle of nowhere. But the fact is, they live way out in the middle of nowhere. They're not coming into contact with people on a regular basis. They're isolationists to begin with. So they're not really all that much at risk. The elderly are, for sure. The already infirm are, for sure. But 800 total cases, roughly speaking. Maybe it's more now, but last I heard it was 800 cases in all of Queensland. Okay? And yet, they lock the entire place down, lock people inside their homes. Makes no frickin' sense. Makes not a whit of sense. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then they kill puppies. They kill puppies because, Morona. Anyway, I'm just about at the park now. I'm going to sign off here. Thanks everybody for watching. It's been a while since I ranted like that. I hope you all appreciate it. Love ya. Take care. Bye-bye.